is a frequent contributor to various publications, including the New York Times, the Atlantic Monthly, Harper's, the New York Review of Books, Rolling Stone magazine, and Outside. This is not Bill's first Connecting for Change. This is now a migration for Bill. You're emulating the salmon. And we're really, really proud to have Bill McKibben back at Connecting for Change. Please give him a huge round of applause.
Well, thank you all. Thank you all enormously. Now, Tim, were you going to give us some music here?
Divest, divest, you say divest, 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 I say divest, divest, you say divest, divest, we'll do the math so the earth will last, take the cash from the fossil fuel stash, fossil fuels, we got the tools, boycott them dirty dudes, they killing our future, that's why we gotta do the math, need help, all you gotta do is ask, 350.org, 350.org.
This is, where's Tim? Come on out, this is your neighbor, Tim Blast.
Divest, 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 I say divest, 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 you say divest. 350.org, 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 gotta keep the test below 2 degrees.
This is powerful stuff. Tim just spent the month at an artist retreat with a bunch of friends of mine putting together important work about climate change, because one of the things we know is that we've got to figure out how to appeal not just to the left brain, to that part of our mind that likes bar graphs and pie charts, you know, but also to the other part, the part that really connects down into us. And I know that that's what you all have been doing the last couple of days, and I am so grateful for the chance to be here again. Thank you so much to Dessa. Thank you so much, especially to my friend Jen, one of really my sort of confidants and the people I trust most about all this work. I feel a little bad because I have this feeling that you're, you know, it's just one of those days when my role in life as a kind of professional bummer-outer of people may be coming through. I'm just going to level with you a little bit here at the beginning because I'm feeling a little somber. Part of it's just fatigue. I've been on the road pretty much nonstop. 24 hours ago, I was on Vancouver Island with 800 people, including a lot of Indigenous leaders. And last night I was in Ottawa with 1,000 really fired up young people from all across Canada. And today I'm here, and I'm going to tell you about this movement that's building and how beautiful it is. But I really just sort of want to begin with a confession almost. You know, I wrote the first book about all this stuff 25 years ago about climate change. And I should have figured out much earlier than I did that I needed to do more than write a book about it and talk about it, that we needed to start long ago building the movement that we started building 5 years ago. We didn't know, I didn't know, no one knew how fast that this was all going to build and on what scale. Just look around this country this year, our small dot on the planet, the 2% of the planet that's the continental United States. We've seen the warmest year that we've ever had in this country, the warmest month, July 2012, warmest month, any year in this country. We've seen the incredible heat wave that came in March and in some ways never really let up. We've seen the drought of epic proportion that caused grain prices to go up 40% around the world and mean that there are hundreds of millions of people, poor people, who are not able to eat as much as they want or need because they can't afford it because the weather's gone crazy. And today, of course, we sort of sit and watch as this storm makes its way up the East Coast for the second year in a row, a kind of massive hurricane. Last year, it was my state from Vermont that took the real brunt of it, and we're still recovering. And maybe that's why I feel a little somber just watching the predictions right now. The National Weather Service about an hour ago said that this is in area, the biggest storm that's ever approached the mainland United States. The tropical storm force winds are 1,040 miles across. There's the possibility of 10 and 11-foot storm surge across New York and Long Island. If you have people who live near the coast, if you live near the coast, take it very seriously. The world is changing and changing fast. There is a lot more energy trapped in this narrow envelope of atmosphere that we call home. We've raised the temperature of the earth 1 degree, and that's what's caused not just those things I've described in the US, but truly epic things all over the world. Probably the thing that in 100 years people will remember about our time, about this year, was the fact that it was the year when it really became absolutely, utterly clear that the Arctic was changed forever. By the time the melt season ended in September, there was only 25% of the ice that there had been there 40 years ago. We've taken one of the biggest physical features on Earth and we've broken it, and we are doing the same thing with all the other major physical features on this Earth. I love being here because I can look out at the Atlantic, and 24 hours ago, as I say, I was looking out at the Pacific. In fact, I was in a ferry boat onto Vancouver Island, and a huge pod of dolphins, 100 or 150, just breaking the water, racing the boat along, and just beautiful beyond belief, but also bittersweet because the water that they were racing through, that water is about 30% more acid than it was 40 years ago. All the oceans of the world are, because they're absorbing carbon from the atmosphere and it's altering their chemistry. We've never done anything even approaching the scale of what we're doing now, and we've only just begun. So far, we've raised the temperature of the Earth 1 degree, and that's been enough to cause everything that I've described. But the same scientists who told us that would happen now tell us with robust confidence that unless we get our act together very, very quickly, that 1 degree will be 4 or 5 degrees before this century is out. And there is no reason to think that we can cope with that. And one of the reasons that I want so hard to fight is because all the things that you guys have been describing this weekend, all the things that people were talking about at Big Pioneers in California, where I was last week, all those beautiful visions of the future that are starting to come true, all the models that people are creating for local food and local energy and local currency and all the things that allow us to look ahead and see an absolutely beautiful world dawning. All those things cannot happen unless we can also stop this disintegration of the physical systems of the earth. We have to adapt to that which we can't prevent, but we have to prevent that to which we cannot adapt. And it is that task most of all that we're called to right now in this time. I'm just going to talk about it for a couple of minutes. We know what the trouble is. The trouble is that the fossil fuel industry, the richest industry on earth, has used its wealth and its power to block the kind of common sense change that we need. Everybody knows that we need to move to a renewable energy economy, and in a few places where the power of the fossil fuel industry is a little less, it's actually happened. Germany is the one country on earth that's taken all this seriously, the one big country, and there were days this summer when they generated more than half the power they used from solar panels within their borders, okay? This is Germany. Munich is north of Montreal. It's foggy. It's Wagnerian, It's not Florida or Texas or Arizona or California. It's a perfect demonstration that what we lack is not technology, but the political will to put it to work, and that's what we're going to have to build. We started trying almost 5 years ago at 350.org, and I am so grateful to all of you for your help in that process, because these communities have been at the absolute forefront. Bedford, in particular, from the very first day of action that we did, has been a huge player. And what we tried to do at first was let me show you a couple pictures, just to remind you who your brothers and sisters are in all of this. We have 40,000 pictures in the Flickr account from those 20,000 demonstrations in every country on earth except North Korea. One of the things that I always just want to remind everybody of is that old canard, that old lie about environmentalism, that it's something that rich white people do when they've taken care of their other problems, and that if you didn't know where your next meal was coming from, you wouldn't be, that just is nonsense. Most of the people that we work with around the world are poor and black and brown and Asian and young, because that's what the world is mostly made up of, and they are every bit as concerned about the future as anybody else, maybe more so, because the future bears down so hard on you if you are in those kind of poor places. And people bring their creativity to the fore all over the world. The religious communities of the world increasingly involved. There's the head of Muslim South Africa and indigenous traditions in South Africa, and behind them, the Anglican Archbishop of South Africa in the scarlet at the head of a huge multi-faith march across Cape Town. There's the most important evangelical college in the country. There's Jordan and Palestine and Israel cooperating along the shores of the Dead Sea, We've done hundreds of demonstrations across China, which isn't easy. 1 or 2 have been broken up by the police, but most have continued as people there start to stand up for a different future than the one, and it's starting to work. China's leading the world now in installing renewable energy. There are brothers and sisters in the Maldives. It's a 5,000-year-old country, culture, but the odds of it becoming 5,100 years old are pretty slim. The highest point in that country is 1.5 meters above sea level. But they're trying with everything they've got. There's the Student Government Association holding their meeting in the lagoon to demonstrate what's going on. Look, none of those people look like our image of, what the Sierra Club looks like. All the women in that zero are in full black burqa, but they're exactly of the same heart and mind as anybody here. They're thinking about the future, not about themselves, about what we're going to make of this world. There's some oil-rich sheikhs, but behind them is the largest solar array on Earth in the United Arab Emirates. People are starting. When we did our first day of action, I confess that there were 400 or 500 pictures that went in a file just labeled 350 adorable, and many of them were adorable. Zinnia, that one is for you. But they were also bittersweet, very hard to look at sometimes. The face of that girl in the middle always kills me, those big, trusting eyes. Chances are those girls will be refugees before their lives are over, and through absolutely no fault of their own. And I can show you these pictures for hours on end from every corner of the world. These are your brothers and sisters. These are who are joining this fight everywhere, everywhere. And with great love and great power, increasingly bringing art to bear. Tom York, lead singer of Radiohead, asked 3,000 of his closest friends to come to Brighton Beach in the UK, and he gave them all blue raincoats, and then they made that image, which I'm afraid is kind of apropos for today, of King Canute trying to hold back the ocean, doing art projects so large that the only way, so many people making such huge images that the only way to capture them is with satellite from outer space, because that's how big they are. That's the dry riverbed in Santa Fe, and that's a few thousand people with blue cardboard and sheets above their heads as the satellite passed over, turning it back into a river for a minute. This stuff is beautiful and powerful, and we've built with your help this movement all over the world, and now we have to put that movement into serious use. We have to make it count in the very short time that we have, and that's what we've been trying to do. Last year, with the help of people in this room, we took on this huge pipeline down out of the tar sands of Canada, because it turns out that that's the second biggest pool of carbon on Earth. And we didn't know if there any way that we could even begin to slow it down. Everybody in Washington said no, it was a done deal. But when Jim Hansen at NASA said, if we burn all that stuff on top of everything else we're burning, then it's game over for the climate, we knew we had to try. And so we put out a letter asking people to come to Washington and get arrested. And what do you know? People showed up. It turned into the biggest civil disobedience action in the biggest civil disobedience action in 30 years in this country. And then it spread around the world. Soon they were doing it up in Canada, and then at embassies and consulates, and then we came back to the White House, and some people here were there for that day when we surrounded it shoulder to shoulder, 5 deep around that mile-long perimeter. And then the great day, 4 days later, when President Obama said, okay, we'll take a year and really study this. If he's reelected, we'll find out whether he was speaking cynically or whether he meant it. But at the very least, we began to demonstrate that we could stand up to the power of the fossil fuel industry, and now we just need to do it. Now we just need to do it in a bigger way, because we cannot stop global warming one pipeline or one coal mine or one oil well at a time. There's just too many of them. We've got to do those fights, but we've got to go more directly at them. The night after the election at 350.org, we're going to launch this road show all across America that I hope you will follow. If you can come to one of these evening events, do. But it's going to be very beautiful, but also very determined, because we desperately need to take away the kind of social license of what's become a rogue industry. Earlier this summer, the CEO of Exxon, Rex Tillerson, gave a speech in which he said, yes, it's true, global warming is real. Forget all the things my predecessors have said, it is real. But it's an engineering problem with engineering solutions. Someone asked him what he meant. He said, oh, if we need to move our crop production areas, then we will. This is the kind of crazy, crop production areas are what the rest of us call farms. And there is no place to move them. The fact that Shell and Exxon have melted the Arctic for us does not mean we can take Iowa and transplant it to the tundra. There's no soil there, and soil is a good thing if you're trying to grow stuff, you know. We have to stand up to these guys. They are a rogue industry, an outlaw industry. Outlaw, not against the laws of the state, because they get to write those, but outlaw against the laws of physics, okay? And that's an even more grievous offense. And so if you all are at a college, we're going to be trying to get you to go to work to divest the stock of your college in the fossil fuel companies, and if you're at a church or if you're anything else. And then we're also going to be telling people that we're going to be organizing people to come to Washington, but also to go to places like Dallas, to the shareholders meetings of these companies, and sit down in the street again and make clear that it's not business as usual, that they have to stop, that their social license has been revoked. It's incredibly important, because these were pictures from this day earlier this year, connect the dots that we did around the world of people who are already suffering the sting of climate change, whether it's wildfire or whether it's rising sea level, or, I mean, that top red balloon is where the water in the Dead Sea was 40 years ago, okay? That came with a little note, that picture from some anonymous village in the middle of India. The note just said, there is no water behind our dam anymore. I don't know what to do with these pictures except try to fight. That's in the part of Pakistan where 20 million people have been flooded from their homes in the last 3 years. That's in Vermont, and you can see the damage from Irene last year on those farm fields all covered with sand. For me, that picture kind of sums it up. I don't know if you can read it or not, but those signs on the side say, your actions affect me, okay? It's not true the other way around. There's nothing anybody can do in Haiti that can affect us. They don't use enough fossil fuel. They don't have any headquarters of fossil fuel companies. They're not a superpower. It's up to us to figure out how to turn this around. I think we, well, I don't know. I don't know. I don't guarantee a thing other than that we'll fight. I do know this. There were 2 lessons that I learned when we were doing that stuff in Washington. One, that it's going to take all of us. When we sent out that letter asking people to come get arrested, we said, college kids should not have to be the cannon fodder here. If you're 22 right now, maybe an arrest record is not the most important thing for your resume, quite. One of the few unmixed blessings of growing older is, past a certain point, what the hell are they going to do to you? And so it was really good to see people with hairlines like mine streaming into D.C. And we didn't ask them, how old are you, because that'd be rude, but we did cleverly say, who was president when you were born? And the 2 biggest groups came from the FDR and the Truman administrations, okay? So that was good. Young people have been leading here, and they'll keep leading, but now they've got some followers from the rest of us. The second thing, the last thing was, we said to people, if you want to come get arrested, please, wear a necktie, wear a dress. Not because, I mean, I live in Vermont. Neckties are basically for funerals, you know, but because we wanted to make the most important visual point, which is that there is nothing at all radical about any of the things that we are asking for. Nothing at all. All we're asking for is a world that works a little bit like the one we were born onto, which, if you think about it, the world that, you know, we've had for the 10,000 years of the Holocene, if you think about it, that's kind of a conservative thing to be requesting. Radicals work at oil companies. If you get up in the morning and to amass a vast fortune, you are willing to alter the chemical composition of the atmosphere, then you are engaged in an act more radical than any human being before you, and we have got to stop it. The odds of doing that, I don't know. The science is tough, and they've got all the money. So we need the other currencies. Passion and spirit and creativity, and sometimes we have to spend our bodies. All I can tell you for sure is that all over the world now, people are in this fight. It's always such an honor to be in the rooms full of them in places like Haiti or the Maldives or wherever, but it is a special honor to be in this room with you all today, because I know how much this community's already done and how much more it will do in the future. And all I can say is it is a great honor just to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with you as we make this fight, as we try to change those odds. We'll see. We'll see, and looking out around at you today, I gotta say, you've cheered me up in the course of 20 minutes, and I like our odds. I like our odds. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Bill. There's one last group of people that we need to thank, and that is you. You cannot connect dots if there are no dots to connect. Thank you for being here this weekend. Swim home safely. Carry the energy, inspiration, and wisdom you have gathered here. Take it home with you, and put it into action. We'll see you next year when the migration returns. Take care, and thank you.